What was the incident that happened at your school? My name's Ryan from Askreddit Tells, and today we're going to be looking at that. But before we do, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell to keep the channel running. Black kid apparently fisted a chubby white girl and put her in the hospital. At graduation, when she said black kid walked up to accept his diploma, the entire graduating class put their fists in the air. This was middle school, by the way. For our senior prank, a few students actually grappled up to the roof of our 4-story high school, then rappelled down to the library courtyard and broke in with keys that they had stolen from the janitor, and proceeded to fill the entire hallway to the ceiling with books, blocking off the main pathway between the school. One of them stupidly went to their locker, and the camera was able to identify them from the locker they went to. Edit. Apparently the version I heard was slightly off. I'm sure there are many versions of the story, but here it is from the source. Yo, I was one of the 4 who did this, not the one who got us caught. PM me if you want proof. Let me straighten some facts. No keys were used whatsoever. The exterior doors in the courtyard were not locked from the outside, so we just walked in. No one visited their locker. The dummy who got us caught wore the same jacket to school the next day. One of the teachers recognized it from the footage of us walking through the school. Then, while he was in class, they opened his locker and confirmed it was the same jacket. He confessed when they brought him in. As much as I wish we had rappelled down, the several-story climb we had to do was easy because the building is set up in sort of steps, so we only had to drop down level by level. Junior year, a sophomore boy put a sealed container of chicken noodle soup in an empty locker next to the chemistry room. It sat there for months, easily 5 or 6, until somebody thought about it again. It was brought up in chemistry class, 11th grade, and our chemistry teacher took a pair of tongs to the locker and planned to dispose of it once and for all. His hands were too shaky that day, and as soon as he lifted it out of the locker, it fell, spilling the entire cesspool that the chicken noodle soup became. He immediately ran back to his room, screaming, "Oh God! Shut the doors! Shut the doors!" And hilarity ensued. The smell was indescribable. Raw sewage, rotten chicken, fermented noodles, all mixed into one. That's a description, buddy. I have never, and probably will never, smell anything remotely close to it again. The smell permeated the entire floor and even seeped down to a stairwell next to the spill to the classrooms immediately below. The day of the disaster, everyone gagged as they traveled through the halls. Luckily, it happened during 8th period. Last period, before we went home, a hazmat team was called to take care of the spill, just in case there were airborne diseases. For the rest of the school year, the teachers lit candles in the hallways and in their classrooms, but the smell never left us. It stayed all summer, and even on to the next school year until it finally went away altogether. The chemistry teacher who dropped the soup is actually now my stepfather, and we recount this story at least once a year and laugh our asses off. It's one of those of my best memories of high school. Exchange student from Scotland went around messing with any guy she could. She was finally caught in a gangbang in the school barn with like 5 other students. Is no one else wondering what the hell a school barn is? It's the designated gangbang area. There was a big brawl in our parking lot with a bunch of black kids against a bunch of white kids. It was over drugs. The school went bonkers thinking it was a race thing. Yeah, thank Christ it was only drugs, right? Look, a good old-fashioned commercial dispute is a lot better than a race war. That's capitalism for you. They should all get A- on their econ classes. A+ are for students who don't get caught. Senior prank consisted of dumping month-old fish into the air duct from the roof. They couldn't figure out what was going on at first. School was closed for a week. Hazmat was called, and ultimately after the police got involved for vandalism, the kids responsible fessed up and got community service hours. Good times. At a private Christian school, a girl in 12th grade got pregnant. According to the official rules, she was supposed to be expelled to protect the school's image. Instead, all the teachers and principals got together and decided that that's not what Jesus would do, that the rule was idiotic. They didn't expel her and gave her all the support she needed during the pregnancy and after. It was a week more than a single incident. Middle school at a school for gifted children. First, 2 or 3 of those geniuses tried to light the effing forest on fire beside the school. They failed, but severely burned themselves in the process. Second, Somehow a kid got run over by a bus. I don't know if I ever remembered the details, just that a bus service was canceled and the kid never came back to school. Third, somebody spray painted Mr. Blank does something really bad to little girls. Ask blank on the wall of the school. It was a girl I knew, and it turned out apparently he actually did some really horrible stuff with/to her. Then he killed himself. I think it was that weekend. There were so many assemblies and other things at the time. In elementary school, all the boys got sent outside the last hour of class and lined up because someone had smeared their crap all over the men's bathroom. I know now that they were looking at our fingernails because most kids aren't smart enough to clean under them. They told us to all hold out our hands and would send us back to class one by one after looking at them. Someone stole a urinal from one of the boys' bathrooms in high school. All year, the principal went on about how if we knew anything we should come forward because we must stop the bathroom bandits. Of course, no one came forward because once the bathroom bandits had a name, they became legend. I never did find out who they were, but someone found the urinal 3 years later hidden under some stairs behind the auditorium, a good distance from the bathroom it was taken from. One of the big 6-foot-plus, tough students who had a bit of a reputation as a bully and a troublemaker decided he was going to try and intimidate one of the art teachers under the mistaken impression that just because Mr. Scott was only 5'5" in his socks and about 55 kilograms wringing wet, that Mr. Scott would be a pushover. He didn't know that before Mr. Scott trained to be a teacher, Mr. Scott was in the Army, and whilst he was in the Army, Mr. Scott was the divisional weight champion for boxing in Australia. He tried to push Mr. Scott out of the way, and when that didn't work, he tried to punch him. Mr. Scott punched him on the jaw and knocked him out. And before anything says it was wrong, it was 1977. My school still had corporal punishment. Teachers would and did smack you round over the head if you were being a dick. You certainly never ever laid a hand on a teacher. Talking back got you the cane or ruler, so that's why this was the biggest incident at my school. My English teacher served in both the Marines and the Army in joint operations. A student tried something like this once and he just told the student, "If you're going to hit me, hit me." When the student did, he caught the punch and threw him to the ground. No one tried starting stuff with this teacher ever again. I've posted this before, but I figure these threads could always use some more positive stories. My high school was relatively free from bullying, but the biggest hullabaloo was surrounded by a mildly autistic student we had who was the subject of some tormenting from his classmates. Some jack-offs figured they could make him lose his cool by repeatedly clicking their pens and then acting like they couldn't hear it. It got so bad he had to leave class crying. Our history teacher, whom the whole school liked, went on to become principal, went door to door in every classroom to explain to the students what was going on. Rather than talk about bullying, he simply told us that he had thought better of us and was very disappointed to be proven wrong. Sometime the next week, someone was clicking the pens again to rile the poor student up, when quarterback of our football stood up, walked over to the kid doing the clicking, took his pen, books, and backpack and threw it all in the garbage before returning to his seat. The English teacher leading the class acted like they hadn't seen a thing. The bullying stopped after that. Not a juicy scandal, but I figured I'd contribute a more positive story amidst all the student-teacher messing around. A girl in our school just disappeared one day. Rumors that she was pregnant, etc. Some glitch in the system had her on the honor roll every semester. They'd call her name in assembly every time. Well, I knew her. She wasn't pregnant, just dropped out, and when I told her name kept getting called for honors, she thought it would be hilarious to actually show up and collect her gifts. That was the prize. So she did, with a fake baby in her arms, then spiked the baby on the stage. Damn, Jess, you were nuts. I dated her for a few years in college. It went on as expected, but that's another story. There was also the time a kid died in the courtyard after practicing wrestling moves, falling and hitting his head on the bench. As someone who saw him fall, be resuscitated by a teacher, and then die, it was pretty traumatic. That was probably the main incident until a couple of years later when another kid died after getting hit by a car after school. In year 7, we had a storm and the winds were so strong that they blew the roof off. We were all evacuated and sent home and then had 2 or 3 weeks off school after that, and the top floor of the school was blocked off for months. Edit 1. This happened in Blackpool, England. Edit 2. Year 7 is the first year in high school, which you start when you're 11. The Battle of the Sexes. The teacher got fired that day because of what happened. She was supposed to be monitoring recess. I'm not really sure what prompted this, but probably nothing. But there was an all-out boys versus girls war. I remember swinging from the handlebars at the top of the slide and kicking a girl in the face. She dropped like 9 feet. Not long after, 2 more girls came, each one grabbed one of my legs, and then just hopped off the ladder. I hit my jaw falling down and bit my tongue really bad. Lots of kids, including myself, had to go to the nurse. They canceled school that day and had a meeting with the parents the following week. Why was there a kiddie brawl to begin with? I don't know, man. This was back in the time I was eating ants. I know this is long, but this is some good stuff. I accidentally became a meme in my 4,000 student high school after I served a Category 3 suspension, 21 days, for hacking. It started when I took a VB class my sophomore year. It was my first time doing any real coding outside of HTML, and it really opened up a world of possibilities. I got bored with binary conversations and stuff, and decided I would create something interesting. As a kid, I thought, wouldn't it be funny/cool if I tricked people into giving me their Windows passwords? There was a few seniors in my VB class that constantly bullied me, so I figured this was a good way to get back at them. I recreated the Windows XP login screen and set it so that the login button saved the username and password onto my network drive. It worked gloriously, except the kids in my class weren't dumb, so they would just press Ctrl-Alt-Delete and realize it was just an app running. I found a VB script that restarted the computer and called it whenever someone clicked login, so they reboot right back into the real login screen and not realize I had just stolen their password. To my surprise, it also disabled the CID prompt, so even the techie guys didn't realize they were being baited. No one was able to tell anymore my product was a complete. I found, I assumed, a major Windows vulnerability using a stupid restart script in a phishing app. I was ready for the adrenaline. I went to the library after school and logged into all 10 to 20 computers, loaded my app, then quietly took a computer in the corner and quietly watched. By the end, I had a notepad file with 30 username/password combos. I even got passwords for some teachers. I felt like a god. I then logged in to my bullies' accounts and deleted everything. Essays, homework, assignments, whatever. Back then, ytmnd.com was really popular, and CS kids would use it to make fun of each other. It's basically a site where you can create a page using a GIF loop and an audio of a hilarious effect. Anyway, I got a picture of the worst of the bullies and used Dennis Leary's "I'm an Asshole" song as the backdrop. I then put a link to that page in all of their network drives. The next day in class, everyone was quiet. I felt the tension in the air, and I couldn't have possibly been more smug with myself. I quietly sat down and did some work. I heard some whispering, and then one of the guys started talking to himself. Man, my essay's gone. I started to feel bad to the point where there was no turning back. Everyone knew it was me, but no one said a word to me. A YTMND page I made quickly got around to the point was firmly made. The shenanigans didn't end there, but cut a long story short, I later hacked the network admin password by brute force using the SAM file so I could unblock the gaming websites. Though this tinkering, I didn't realize I unlocked a network drive that only me and the network admin could see. I used it to store files when my own drive ran out of space, which obviously raised suspicion. He went through my drive and found a list of passwords, a program called SAM inside, and a bunch of other shady apps I created during my run. I was done for. After an emotionally grueling interrogation by my a-hole vice principal, they suspended me for 21 days and banned me from playing sports. I had been a straight-A student my whole life and broke down thinking my life was over. Hilarious in retrospect, but I was a total mess. A week after my suspension, I'm chilling at home and a friend IMs me. "Dude, you're famous." "What?" He sends me a dozen links. Word got around in the school that I hacked the school, and people made websites in my honor. Free Aaron, Aaron for president, justice for Aaron. I became a meme, and the whole school knew me by face, my picture photoshopped on picket signs and billboards in solidarity. Even my bullies came around, and we all became good friends. When I came back from school after 21 days, everyone was expecting me. Random people waved to me in the hallways, and I was still in shock and in disbelief. There were flyers of me plastered on computer labs and in random corners of the hall. That was the incident that everyone talked about for years until I graduated. Edit. The fame quickly died down. No, I didn't get laid. No, I didn't get a job at Google, and if anything, I was scared shitless from ever tinkering again. Unfortunately. I also never particularly thought a hacker during any of this, since one case, it was phishing, and the other involved getting a hidden file and running it through a program. I definitely felt like a hacker, though. Yes, I got into college, fortunately, but I never did computer stuff with the same enthusiasm. I'm a consultant now. Well, that's all the time we have for today. If you liked it, make sure to check out some of our other stuff and even subscribe. And do me a favor and give this video a share. It really helps to have this video get around. As always, my name is Ryan from Askreddit Tells, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.